If you want to learn how to speak English, or if you already speak English but you want to develop your English language skills, there is a fundamental approach that you will need to utilize in order to be successful in reaching your English language goals. What is that fundamental approach? Stick around and find out. Welcome to Learn English with Dr. Bruce. Let's hit it. If you want to learn English or any language, you need to have MAP. M-A-P. What is MAP? MAP is an acronym. It stands for Motivation, Attitude, Practice. M-A-P. MAP. Without MAP, your language learning journey is going to be next to impossible. So yes, let's be honest about this. I'm going to be honest straight off. There's no easy way to learn languages. Some of my students have said, well, you're naturally gifted in languages, and so that's why you've been able to learn different languages. No, I'm not naturally gifted. I wish that there was a natural gift for languages. Some people may be more predisposed than others to speak a language, but there's no gene that will make you a language learning star. It's hard work. So let's take a look at MAP. Let's take a look first at motivation. What is motivation? Motivation is the reason or reasons one has for acting or behaving in a particular way. This is one definition of motivation. Motivation is a process that initiates, guides, and maintains goal-oriented behaviors. It's what helps you lose extra weight, for example, take up a sport, learn a musical instrument, get a promotion at work, make a connection with that special someone. In short, motivation enables you to reach your goals. So what's your motivation for learning English? Maybe you need to pass an English course in junior high school or university. Maybe you need to develop your English in order to get a promotion at work or to transfer to an English-speaking company, say the US or the UK, Australia. Maybe you want to pass an international English exam like the IELTS or TOEFL in order to get admission to a university in an English-speaking country. Maybe you're preparing to travel and you want to be able to speak to people and have conversations with native speakers. Maybe you just want to learn about new cultures and new languages. And learning about new cultures, one of the best ways to do that is to learn the language. Maybe you just want to learn a language for enjoyment and to stave off dementia. One of my motivations for continuing to learn languages even though I'm 73 years old, because research shows that one of the ways to stave off, slow down dementia, not keep it from happening completely, but slow it down, is by learning new languages. And so there's intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is the spontaneous tendency to seek out novelty and challenges, to extend and exercise one's capacity, to explore and to learn. When intrinsically motivated, people engage in an activity because they find it interesting and inherently satisfying. Extrinsic motivation comes from without, from your parents. Learn how to speak English. Learn how to ride a bike. Learn how to drive a car. Learn how to manage your money. Comes from your teachers. You need to study more. Comes from your employers. You need to get with the program. We're going to talk more about motivation in future videos. Let's go on to the second part of MAP, attitude. Attitude is usually defined as a disposition or tendency to respond positively or negatively to a certain thing, such as an idea, an object, a person, a country, a situation. Students have positive or negative attitudes towards a language that they want to learn or have to learn, the people that speak it, the country where it's spoken. What's an example of a positive attitude towards language? I can learn English if I really want to. Learning a new language can be fun and rewarding. Language is a tool for communication that can be learned and used by anyone willing to put in the time and effort. A positive attitude lets you relax, remember, focus, and absorb information. What's a negative attitude? I'm too old to learn a new language. You have to be a child to learn a new language. You have to be born with a special gene to learn languages. I don't have that gene, so I'm never going to be successful. I'm going to make mistakes and people are going to laugh at me. Fear. Fear is the mind killer. I don't have enough time to do this. Learning a new language is just too hard. It's not just me that thinks this way. Research has shown, and I'm going to be talking a lot in videos about research because I base my language learning on what research shows to be the most effective ways to learn. Language learning is closely related to the attitudes and motivations that people have. One study showed that when learners have little intrinsic interest in language learning, they have to be motivated outside. They need extrinsic motivation. But another language scholar argues that if a speaker's only reason for learning a second language is external motivation, external pressure, then the internal motivation is most likely to be minimal and general attitudes towards learning the language may be negative. So what do we see? Motivation and attitude are intertwined. Seems like a lot to take in right now. Don't worry, we're going to come back to this in future videos. Let's take a look at the third component, practice. What is practice? Wow, that seems like an easy question. Practice is doing something over and over and over again until you become good at it, until you reach the goals that you want to accomplish. But, one of my students told me once when I was explaining this to her, she said, I've seen on YouTube that I can become fluent in 30 days and that it's easy to do. And I said, really? In that case, this person that's teaching the class must be a millionaire because everybody in the world would want to do this if you can learn a new language in 30 days. And she said, well, I don't know. Did you try it? I asked. Well, it's so expensive. There's a secret, but he'll only tell you the secret if you give him money. Okay, I would stay away from that. So if it was so easy to become fluent in a language, everybody would be multilingual. Becoming good at most everything requires hard work and dedication. But what constitutes practice when you're learning a new language? Let's take a look. These are in no particular order. I'm going to be talking about these in upcoming videos. Reading. Read everything. Read comics. Read the news. Books. Read the journal articles. Anything you can find. Cereal boxes. When I first started learning Indonesian, I read the cereal boxes. I read liner notes for cassette tapes. Back in those days, we had cassette tapes, and they would have liner notes. I read those. I read everything that I could find. Read, read, read. The more reading you do, the larger your vocabulary is going to be. And we're going to get to reading later on, but reading is important. Listening. You have to listen. Listen to everything. Listen to podcasts. Listen to YouTube videos. Listen to TV shows. Listen to movies. Listen to music. If you're able to connect with a native speaker, listen to them. Writing. I tell my students this all the time, and it's one of the things that they hate the worst about learning English. Writing. They go, writing is so hard. It is. It's hard. It's not easy to write, especially when you are just at a beginner stage or intermediate stage. You really have to think, and guess what? It pushes you. It pushes you, it expands your ability. You're able to see how words fit together right there on the page. Writing is so important. I can't stress that enough, and we're going to be talking about writing, of course, in future videos, of course, because everything's in future videos. Remember, today's just an introduction. Speaking. Now, speaking, there are a lot of different ways that people say you should learn English, and you shouldn't start speaking until you have some comprehensible input, a certain amount. Other people say, oh, I start speaking the language right away. How did I learn Indonesian, for example? I learned Indonesian. In the old days, I had a cassette tape. I had a book that went along with the cassette tape, and it had vocabulary and some grammar. And I listened very carefully every day. How long? 2 hours every day. How long did I do that for? 2 hours every day for 2 months. And when I got to Indonesia, I was not fluent by any means, but I was able to hold up a conversation. So I was reading, I was listening, I was speaking. I would say the sentences, the vocabulary words over and over again to get used to being able to pronounce words like an Indonesian, not like an American who speaks Indonesian. although I still have an American accent, and we'll talk about accents in another video. Who are you going to speak with? Well, there are so many resources online these days. You can find partners, sometimes for free, sometimes you pay. Use a company like Cambly, for example, or italki. Maybe you know somebody. Maybe you just want to try it out. Practice your English with people that don't understand it. It doesn't make any difference if they understand it. You want to be able to speak it and get comfortable speaking it. And they may pick up some English as well. Talk to your mom, your dad, your grandpa, your grandma, your sister, your brother, your children, nephews, nieces, whoever is around. And finally, under practice, commitment. You need to make a schedule and stick with it as much as you can. You need to make a schedule that's realistic. If you're not going to be able to do 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day, don't say you are, because then you'll start to feel defeated and you'll develop a resentment towards learning the language. Give yourself something practical. You can start slowly and build your way up. Let's say you start with 15 minutes a day. I'm going to listen to a podcast or a YouTube video for 15 minutes. Listen to one of these. Or I'm going to watch an episode of Friends or Modern Family. I'm going to listen to some songs and really listen to them. You can have English music playing while you're cleaning the house, while you're making dinner. Listen to TV shows. You don't have to be watching all the time. You can just be listening. You want to get some comprehensible input. You want to hear the language spoken over and over and over again. Commitment. The commitment is make a time and do it every day. Don't make excuses. Now, of course, in real life, there are going to be times when you can't. You're sick, or your partner is sick, or you've got to work overtime suddenly, or you just want a day off. Okay, no problem. But you need to stick with it. If you make a schedule, you want to do that schedule as much as possible every day. Commitment, dedication, practice. So that's MAP. Motivation, attitude, practice. What can you expect in upcoming videos? There's going to be a mix of vocabulary, speaking and listening exercises, phrasal verbs, collocations, idioms, grammar, reading, some motivation and attitude checks, and more. Interested in learning English and finding out what this channel has to offer? Take a look at this video where we start to learn about situational vocabulary, one of the ways that I've found to be very successful in learning new vocabulary in another language. That is it for today. Thank you for sticking around. If you want to see more of these lessons, consider subscribing. And if you found this helpful, useful, informative, amusing, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. So see you next time with Learn English with Dr. Bruce.